Chapter 1. The Unspoken Promise. The metallic tang of engine oil hung heavy in the cooling air of the Vermont afternoon. Owen adjusted the lamp clip to the undercarriage of a weathered truck. Its amber glow cut through the shadows of his shop. Silence was his favorite companion during these hours. Just the rhythmic click of a wrench, the steady drip of a slow leak. He liked things he could fix. A broken gasket, a worn brake pad. Those were problems with clear solutions. The bell above the heavy wooden door gave a sudden sharp jangle. Owen didn't slide out from under the chassis immediately. He figured it was just another neighbor looking for a tire pressure check before the evening frost set in. But then he heard the breathing. It was shallow, ragged, like someone who had been running away from a fire. Owen wiped his hands on a dark rag and pushed himself out on the creeper. He blinked against the dim light of the shop. Standing in the center of the concrete floor was a woman he recognized from the local market. It was Maya. She was still wearing her cardigan from the academy on the hill. Her hair was pulled back, but several strands had escaped to frame a face that was pale with exhaustion. She clutched her handbag so tightly her knuckles were white. Owen. She said his name like a prayer. I did not know where else to go. Owen stood up and tossed the rag onto his workbench. He was a man of few words. He simply pulled a stool toward her. "Sit down, Maya. You look like you are about to faint." She shook her head. She stayed standing. Her eyes darted around the tools and the half-finished projects as if searching for a way to begin. "I have done something foolish," Maya whispered, "and now I am terrified." Owen leaned against his workbench and crossed his arms. He waited. He knew Maya worked at the private school for children with special needs. It was a place for the kids who did not fit in anywhere else. He had seen her with them at the park. She had a way of leaning down, a way of listening that made the world seem less loud for those children. "Mrs. Gable is a good woman," Maya started. Her voice was trembling, but she is old-fashioned. She believes that to understand the patience needed for our students, a teacher must have a stable home. She believes in the anchor of a family. Maya took a shaky breath. "Months ago when the layoff started, I was so afraid. My father. His medicine is so expensive, Owen. I could not lose my health insurance. I could not lose my salary." She looked down at her feet. "She asked me about my life, about my future, and I lied. I told her I was engaged. I told her I was building a life here with a good man." Owen felt a small tug in his chest. He knew the weight of a lie told out of love. "And now," Owen asked softly, "now is family day." Maya looked up. Her eyes were swimming with tears. "Next week, every staff member must bring their families. Mrs. Gable has been asking to meet my fiancé for months. She wants to see the man who supports the woman who supports her children." She stepped closer. The smell of pine and old paper followed her. "If I show up alone, she will know. She hates dishonesty more than anything. I will be fired, Owen, and I do not know how I will buy my father's heart medication." The shop fell silent again. Outside, a crow called out from a bare maple tree. Maya looked at him. There was a desperate hope in her gaze. "I need a fiancé, just for 4 hours. Someone steady, someone the town respects." Owen looked at his hands. They were calloused, stained with the work of a decade. He thought of his daughter Skylar sleeping in the apartment above the shop. He thought of how hard it was to protect the people you loved. "Why me, Maya?" "Because you are kind," she said it firmly. "Because I see how you look at your daughter, and because you are the only man I know who understands that sometimes we do what we must to survive." Owen turned away. He looked at a photograph pinned to the wall. It was Skylar at 5 years old. She was laughing. He remembered the day Maya had helped Skylar when she fell at the community garden. Maya hadn't just cleaned the knee. She had sat in the dirt and talked to the little girl until the tears stopped. Maya didn't just teach children, she protected them. Owen turned back to her. He saw the way her shoulders were slumped. 4 hours, Owen asked. Maya nodded quickly. "Just 4 hours. A dinner, some small talk. Then it is over. Owen reached out and picked up a heavy wrench. He turned it over in his hand. You should not have to choose between your honesty and your father's life. He walked toward her. He stood tall. His presence was like a fortress. I will do it, Maya. The relief that washed over her was visible. She let out a sob she had been holding back. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I can pay you. I have saved a little. Owen raised a hand to stop her. No, we are not doing this for money. He looked toward the stairs leading up to his home. We are doing this for the kids at that school, and for your father, he paused. But if we are going to do this, we have to do it right. We need a story. We need to be convincing. Maya wiped her eyes. A small, genuine smile touched her lips for the first time. I can do that. I am a teacher. I am very good at lessons. Owen nodded. Then, come back tomorrow. After the shop closes, we will learn our lines. Maya walked to the door. She stopped with her hand on the iron handle. Owen. Yes. You are a good man. She slipped out into the twilight. Owen stood alone in the center of his shop. The silence returned. But it felt different now. It felt heavy with a secret. He looked at the engine he had been fixing. Some things were easy to repair with a wrench and a bit of grease. Others required a much more dangerous kind of work. He climbed the stairs to check on his daughter. The play was about to begin. Chapter 2. The Perfect Charade and the Unveiling. The morning sun spilled across the manicured lawns of the academy. It was a gold and amber light, the kind of light that made everything look more perfect than it really was. Owen smoothed down the collar of his charcoal shirt. It felt stiff against his neck. He was used to heavy canvas and denim, not this. Beside him, Skylar bounced on her heels. She wore a bright yellow dress. She looked like a stray sunbeam. Do I look like a daughter who has a new mom, almost, Skylar whispered. Owen squeezed her small hand. You look perfect, Skylar. Just remember, we are helping Maya, that is all. Maya was waiting for them near the stone archway. When she saw them, her face transformed. The worry that usually etched her brow vanished. She looked radiant in a soft cream dress. She ran to them. She knelt and gathered Skylar into a hug. You came, Maya breathed. Her voice was thick with gratitude. We said we would, Owen replied. The campus was alive with people, parents, students. The air was filled with the sound of wind chimes and distant laughter. Maya led them toward the main pavilion. Standing there was Mrs. Gable. She was a woman of presence. Her silver hair was styled in a sharp bob. Her suit was navy blue, tailored, impeccable. She held a clipboard like a scepter. When she turned her gaze toward them, Owen felt a jolt. Her eyes were piercing. They were the eyes of a woman who saw through layers of steel. Maya, Mrs. Gable said. Her voice was like velvet over gravel. And this must be the man we have heard so much about. Maya took a breath. She reached out and slipped her hand into Owen's. Her palm was damp, cold. Mrs. Gable, this is Owen Freeman and his daughter Skylar. Owen stepped forward. He offered his hand. It is an honor, Ma-am. Mrs. Gable shook his hand. Her grip was firm, professional. She didn't look at his face first. She looked at his hands. She saw the faint remnants of oil beneath his fingernails. She saw the calluses. A man who works with his hands, she remarked. A small smile played on her lips. There is a rare honesty in that. Tell me, Mr. Freeman, how did a mechanic catch the heart of my best teacher? Owen felt Maya stiffen. He leaned back slightly. He allowed a slow, easy grin to spread across his face. It wasn't easy. Maya is a hard woman to convince. I think I had to fix her car 3 times before she even agreed to let me buy her a cup of coffee. Maya laughed. It sounded so natural, it surprised him. He is being modest, Mrs. Gable. He was very persistent. The afternoon went by in a blur of polite conversation. Owen watched Maya work. She was incredible. She navigated the crowded lawn with a gentle hand. She stopped to settle a restless student with just a touch. She translated the silent needs of her children for the world to see. Owen found himself admiring her, not just as a partner in a lie, but as a force of nature. But Mrs. Gable was always there, in the background, watching. She moved with an effortless authority. She managed the staff with a glance. She remembered the names of every sibling, every parent. Owen had never met a woman so sharp, so commanding. Every time he looked up, she was observing them. It made the back of his neck itch. By the time the shadows grew long, the event was winding down. The laughter faded. The guests began to leave. Maya leaned against a tree. The exhaustion was returning to her eyes. "We did it," she whispered. Owen looked at her. He thought of the award Mrs. Gable had given her during the ceremony. A plaque for excellence. "Maya," Owen said. His voice was low. "She knows." Maya froze. "What?" "Mrs. Gable. She has been watching us all day, not like a friend, like a judge." Maya looked toward the main office. The lights were on. The guilt seemed to catch up to her all at once. It was a heavy, suffocating thing. "I cannot do this, Owen. I cannot take that promotion and walk back into that classroom tomorrow knowing I lied to her." Owen nodded. He felt the same weight. He was a man who prided himself on his word. "Then let us finish this." They walked to the office together. Skylar was playing with a ball on the grass outside. The office was quiet. It smelled of old wood and expensive perfume. Mrs. Gable was sitting behind her mahogany desk. She wasn't writing. She was just waiting. "Sit down," she said. Maya didn't sit. She stood in front of the desk. Her hands were trembling. "Mrs. Gable, I have to tell you the truth." Maya's voice broke. She spilled everything. The fear of the layoffs, the medical bills for her father, the desperate plan she had made. "Owen is not my fiancé," Maya sobbed. "He is a good man who tried to help me. I am so sorry. I will leave. I will pack my things tonight." Silence filled the room. It was thick, cold. Owen looked at Mrs. Gable. He expected anger. He expected her to call security. Instead, Mrs. Gable reached into her drawer. She pulled out a silver pen. "Maya," she said quietly, "did you really think I had managed this school for 30 years without learning how to read people?" Maya looked up. Her eyes were wide. "I knew the moment you walked onto that lawn today," Mrs. Gable continued. "Real couples do not look at each other with that much terror. They do not rehearse their smiles so carefully." She looked at Owen. "And a man like Mr. Freeman does not usually find himself in the company of a school teacher unless there is a very good reason." Maya gasped. "Then why did you let the day go on?" Mrs. Gable stood up. She walked to the window. "I kept you because you are the best teacher I have ever seen. Your lie was born of love for your father, that I can forgive. Your talent is undeniable, that I cannot lose." She turned back to them. Her expression softened. "But I also wanted to see how far you would go. And I wanted to see if the man you brought would have the courage to stand by you when the masks came off." She looked directly at Owen. There was something different in her gaze now. It wasn't sharp. It was curious, almost vulnerable. "You stayed, Mr. Freeman. You stood by her even when there was nothing in it for you. You were honest when you didn't have to be." Owen felt a strange heat in the room. "I just did what was right, Ma-am." Mrs. Gable walked toward him. She stopped just a few inches away. "Honesty is a rare vintage, Owen, especially in this town." She looked at him for a long moment. It was a look that lingered, a look that spoke of a deep, quiet loneliness, a fire that had long been buried under paper and policy. Maya was still crying, but they were tears of relief. Mrs. Gable patted Maya's hand. "Go home, Maya. Rest. Your job is safe. We will talk about your promotion on Monday." Maya thanked her 1,000 times. She practically floated out of the room. Owen started to follow. "Owen!" He stopped at the door. He turned back. Mrs. Gable was standing by her desk. The sunlight was hitting her silver hair. She looked less like a principal and more like a woman. "My car," she said. Her voice was soft. "The engine has been making a strange sound lately. Perhaps I should bring it to your shop this week." Owen nodded. He felt his heart hammer against his ribs. "Any time, Mrs. Gable." "Call me Claire," she said. Owen walked out into the cool evening air. Maya was waiting for him. She was hugging Skylar. She was laughing. But Owen looked back at the office window. He saw Claire standing there, watching him. The lie was over. But a new, much more complicated truth was just beginning to take shape in the shadows of the autumn trees. Chapter 3. The Sophisticate and the Caregiver. The morning air in Vermont had turned crisp. It carried the scent of wood smoke and damp earth. Owen stood in his shop. He was lost in the steady rhythm of his work. A sleek, silver, luxury sedan pulled into the gravel lot. It looked out of place among the rusted trucks and muddy tires. The driver's side door opened. Out stepped Claire Gable. She wore a camel-colored wool coat. A silk scarf was tied perfectly around her neck. She looked like she had stepped off a magazine cover. Owen wiped his hands on a clean cloth. He stepped out to meet her. "Mrs. Gable, good to see you." "Claire," she corrected him. Her voice was smooth, like a cello in a quiet room. "My brakes," she said. Her eyes locked onto his. "They have been squeaking. Just a tiny bit. I thought it best to have the town's finest expert take a look." Owen smiled. He felt a flush of pride. "I can check them for you right now." He led her into the shop, usually. People waited in the small lobby with the old magazines, but Claire did not sit. She walked through the shop with a curious grace. She looked at his tools. She touched the smooth, cold surface of a vintage engine he was rebuilding. "You have an incredible mind, Owen," she said suddenly. He paused, a wrench in his hand. "I just fix things, Claire." "No." She stepped closer. The scent of expensive perfume mingled with the oil. "You understand systems. You see the logic in chaos. Most people just see a pile of metal. You see a heartbeat." She spoke to him like an equal. She didn't talk down to him. She didn't treat him like a laborer. They talked for nearly an hour. They didn't just talk about cars. They talked about the growth of the town, the philosophy of hard work, the way the light changed on the mountains. Owen felt a spark he hadn't felt in years. He was flattered. He was intrigued. Claire was a woman who challenged his intellect. She saw the man beneath the grease. "I enjoy our talks. Owen," she said as she prepared to leave. She touched his arm, just for a second. "You are much deeper than you let people see." Owen watched her drive away. He felt energized. He felt seen. But then, the back door of the shop opened. Skylar came running out. She was giggling. Behind her, Maya walked in. She was carrying a small stack of books. Maya wore an old, oversized, flannel shirt over her dress. Her hair was tied up in a messy bun. There was a smudge of flour on her cheek. "We made cookies," Skylar announced. She held up a plastic container. "And Maya helped me with my math. I finally understand the long division." Owen felt the energy from Claire begin to settle. It was replaced by something else, something quiet, something warm. "I hope you don't mind," Maya said. She looked a bit shy. Skylar was struggling with her homework. We decided to tackle it over a snack. Owen took a cookie. It was still warm. "Thank you, Maya. You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to," Maya replied. She started moving around his kitchen. She didn't need to ask where the plates were. She just knew. She tidied a stack of mail. She wiped a spill on the counter that Owen had ignored for days. She wasn't trying to impress him. She was just caring for him. Later that evening, Owen sat in his recliner. He watched Maya and Skylar on the floor. They were reading a story together. Skylar leaned her head against Maya's shoulder. Maya hummed a low, gentle tune. It was a scene Owen had dreamed of for 4 long years, ever since his wife had passed. This house had been a place of echoes. It was a place of survival, not a home. Maya changed that. With her gentle hands and her quiet spirit, she provided the warmth that Skylar so desperately craved. She was the caregiver, the healer of the home. Owen closed his eyes. His mind went back to Claire Gable. He thought of her sharp wit, her success, the way she challenged his thoughts. He felt a pull toward her world of sophistication and ambition. Then he looked at Maya. He felt a pull toward the peace she brought, the way she made Skylar feel safe, the way she made him feel like he could finally put down his heavy tools and rest. Two women, two worlds. One was a mirror, reflecting the man he could be. The other was a fire, warming the man he already was. Owen stood up and walked to the window. The Vermont woods were dark now. The wind was whispering through the pines. He felt a knot in his stomach. Claire had called him deeper. Maya had made him whole. How could a man choose between the mind and the heart? He looked at Maya as she tucked Skylar into bed. She caught his eye and smiled. It was a look of pure, uncomplicated kindness. Then he looked at the business card Claire had left on his workbench. He was torn, and for the first time in his life, Owen Freeman realized that some things could not be fixed with a wrench. Silence filled the house. A heavy, weighty silence. The choice was coming. He could feel it in the cold air. He wasn't ready. He just wasn't ready. Chapter 4. The Noble Retreat. The iron stove in the corner of the shop crackled. It threw orange light across the concrete floor. Outside, the Vermont winter was beginning to whisper. A cold wind rattled the window pane. Owen sat at his workbench. He was not fixing an engine. He was staring at two objects. On his left lay a small, handwritten note from Maya. It thanked him for letting her stay late to help Skylar with a history project. The handwriting was neat, patient, much like the woman herself. On his right lay a gold-embossed invitation. It was for a private gallery opening in the city. Claire Gable had left it there. She said she wanted to hear his perspective on the industrial art. She said he had an eye for the soul of machines. Owen put his head in his hands. He felt the weight of their goodness. It was a heavy, beautiful burden. Claire was a mountain peak. She was sharp. She was successful. She pushed him to look beyond the grease and the rust. When he spoke to her, he felt like the man he had once dreamed of becoming. Maya was a valley. She was fertile. She was nurturing. She had stepped into the cold hollows of his home and brought light. When he looked at her, he saw the mother his daughter deserved. But Owen Freeman was a man of honor. He realized something that made his chest tighten. If he chose Claire, he would lose the warmth that saved his daughter. If he chose Maya, he would always wonder about the world Claire had offered him. And if he stayed in the middle, he was a thief. He was taking their kindness, their time, their hope. All while his own heart was a house divided. He could not do it. He looked at the shadows on the wall. They looked like ghosts of his past. Owen knew that Maya deserved a man who was not looking at the mountain. He knew Claire deserved a man who was not rooted in the valley. They were too good for his indecision. He stood up. He walked to the window and watched the snow begin to fall. Tiny, white, specks in the darkness. The fear of hurting them was greater than the fear of being alone. The decision felt like a wrench turning in his gut. But he knew the system was failing. He had to shut it down before it broke completely. The phone on the wall rang. He knew it was Claire. She had mentioned calling to discuss the drive to the city. He let it ring. 4 times. 5 times. The silence that followed was deafening. The next morning, Owen began the retreat. It was not a retreat of cowardice. It was a retreat of respect. Maya arrived at the shop around noon. She was carrying a thermos of hot cocoa for Skylar. She had a bright smile on her face. "Owen, I was thinking we could take Skylar to the pumpkin patch this Saturday." Owen did not look up from the carburetor he was cleaning. He kept his eyes focused on the small, intricate parts. "I am sorry. Maya, I have a lot of back orders to catch up on. Skylar and I need to stick to the shop for a while." Maya's smile faltered, just a little. "Oh, I understand. Perhaps Sunday then." Owen shook his head. I think we just need some time. Maya, just Skylar and me, to get back to our routine. The air between them grew heavy. Owen could feel her gaze. It was confused. It was hurt. He wanted to drop the tool and tell her how much he appreciated her, but he remained silent. He watched her walk away through the grease-stained window. Her shoulders were slightly hunched. It broke his heart. An hour later, a courier arrived. He brought a small gift from Claire, a book on the history of American engineering. Owen did not open it. He picked up the phone and called the school. He left a message for Mrs. Gable. "Claire, it is Owen. I am afraid I cannot make the opening this weekend. Work has become quite overwhelming. I think it is best if we keep our interactions strictly professional for the time being. I appreciate the gesture." He hung up before he could hear the disappointment in her voice. He walked to the back of the shop. He found Skylar sitting on a tire. She was drawing in the dirt with a stick. "Dad, is Maya coming over tonight?" Owen knelt down. He brushed a stray hair from her forehead. "Not tonight. Bug. It is just going to be us for a while." "Did I do something wrong?" "No." Owen squeezed her shoulder. "No, you are perfect. But sometimes people need space to breathe, even the good ones." The days that followed were quiet. Owen worked until his bones ached. He focused on the metal, the oil, the tangible things. He declined the dinners. He ignored the casual visits. He saw Maya at the grocery store. He nodded politely and moved to the next aisle. He saw Claire's car drive past the shop. He did not wave. He was creating a desert. He hoped that in the silence they would find someone who could give them a whole heart. He hoped that in the space he could find out who he was without the masks. He was the noble retreat. He was the man standing in the center of a quiet shop, surrounded by shadows. He was lonely, but for the first time in months, he felt like a man of his word. He sat down at his workbench. The note and the invitation were gone. There was only the cold, honest, metal, and the sound of his own breathing. He would wait. He would focus on his daughter. He would let the winter come. Chapter 5. An Open Window. The autumn leaves swirled across the cobblestones of the town square. They were bright bursts of crimson and gold. A cool wind swept through the valley. It carried the scent of dry pine and wood smoke. Owen stood by the stone fountain. His hands were tucked deep into his coat pockets. The shop was closed for the afternoon. He had spent weeks in silence, weeks in the desert of his own making. He watched the world go by. A sleek, polished, silver car pulled away from the curb near the town hall. Owen recognized it immediately. It was Claire Gable. He saw her profile through the glass. She looked regal. Her chin was held high. Her eyes were fixed on the road ahead. She was a woman of direction, a woman of strength. She did not look back. Owen felt a pang of profound respect for her. She had accepted his retreat with the dignity he expected. She was a mountain peak that would always command admiration. But the air up there was thin. It was cold. The silver car turned the corner and vanished. Owen let out a long, slow breath. The world seemed to settle. Then he looked across the street toward the park. The yellow school bus was idling at the curb. Maya was there. She was kneeling on the sidewalk. She was speaking to a young boy who looked overwhelmed by the noise of the square. She was not rushing him. She was not pulling at his arm. She just waited. Maya smiled. It was a soft, radiant thing. It was the kind of smile that could light up a dark room. She placed a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder and guided him toward the steps of the bus. She looked up. Her face was flushed from the wind. She looked tired, but she looked whole. Owen felt a familiar warmth stir in his chest. It was not the spark of intellect. It was the steady glow of home. Dad. Skylar tugged at his sleeve. She was looking across the street, too. "I saw Maya today at the library," Skylar whispered. Owen looked down at his daughter. "Did you—" "Yes." Skylar nodded. She looked up at him with those big, hopeful eyes. "She told me she hasn't forgotten about the apple pie recipe. She said, whenever we are ready, She still wants to teach me how to make the crust from scratch. Skylar squeezed his hand. She said she misses our kitchen. Dad. Owen stayed silent for a moment. He looked back at Maya. She had finished her task. She stood on the sidewalk, adjusting her scarf. She glanced toward the fountain. Their eyes met. She did not turn away. She did not run. She simply gave a small, hesitant nod. Owen did not move. He did not wave, but a slow, soft smile spread across his face. It was not a promise of marriage. It was not a grand gesture. It was a window opening. He realized then that he had been treading so carefully because he was afraid of the fall. But looking at Maya, he saw a place to land. He saw the mother his daughter needed. He saw the partner who understood the silence of his soul. The mountain was magnificent, but the valley was where things grew. Owen looked at Skylar. "Maybe," he said softly, "maybe we can go get some apples this weekend." Skylar's face lit up like a sunbeam. "Really? Can we ask Maya to come?" Owen looked back across the square. Maya was still there, waiting for the light to change. "We will start with the apples, Bug, one step at a time." The wind picked up, tossing the leaves into the air. Owen felt the cold, but he did not mind it. He had found his true north. He took a step forward, leading his daughter toward the heart of the square. The story was not over. It was finally, truly, beginning. In life, we often find ourselves caught between what the world expects and what the heart truly needs. Owen's journey reminds us that a home is not built on success or status, but on the quiet, nurturing warmth that heals a soul. True love is choosing the person who makes you feel at peace even when the world is in chaos. If this story moved you, please tell us where you are watching from in the comments, your city, your state, or your country. It means so much to see how far these stories travel. Please subscribe and join our family for more touching tales, and click the video on your screen now to discover our latest heartfelt journey.